Hey, welcome to the Red Flag Coaches Podcast, where we help you spot the signs, stop the cycle, and start healing. Listen, today I have the man, the myth, and the legend here in the room with me today, Bishop Victor L. Powell. Hey, my brother, how are you doing today?
What's going on, Pastor Lawrence? It's so good to be here.
Man, I'm telling you, it's great to see you.
I don't know who you were just introducing, but anyway, I'm glad to be here.
And I wanted to have this conversation today because we as a people, men, we have not been taught to use our voice as it relates to relationships. And so today I want to talk, you and I have this really down home conversation, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the topic today is called "He's Not Cold, He's Just Conditioned."
He's just conditioned.
And this is about why black men don't know how to talk. So let's have this conversation today. Let me start with the ladies because I want the ladies to understand a few things today. Ladies, listen to me now. Before you assume that a man doesn't care, before you label him as cold or emotionally unavailable, we're going to talk about something a little deeper today. We're going to go a little deeper today, ladies. I need y'all to hear me now. And we're going to talk about he's not cold. He's just conditioned.
Just conditioned.
He's just conditioned. So watch this now. The thing about it is, as boys, we were conditioned to not share our emotions.
And if you shared your emotions, you were almost punished for sharing your
Exactly.
emotions.
And so we've been conditioned by a culture that really told us that your emotions make you weak.
Absolutely.
So here we are, we're conditioned by fathers, watch this, who never told us, I love you, who never said, I'm proud of you. We're conditioned by mothers who needed us to be strong before we even knew how to be soft.
Yes.
And so we're dealing with this as adults because we were taught as young boys not to share our emotions. So let's have this conversation.
Yeah, because a young lady inherits. You don't just marry a guy, right? You marry his past. You marry his father, if there was a father. You marry his mother, if there was a mother.
Right.
You marry his grandparents. In other words, the philosophy and the forming of all of those cultures, you marry into all of that.
Exactly.
So if he's been conditioned to suppress his feelings and because being tough, then you marrying that philosophy. You now get the chance to see and inherit all of that pain and that trauma.
Right. And so a lot of times when women are in relationships with men or when we're in relationships with women, vice versa, so when women ask us to open up, why aren't you talking? I need the ladies to understand he's not ignoring you. He's just navigating something that he was never taught. And that was how to talk. So let's talk about how critical it is that when we were younger, and they told us, big boys don't cry, man up. What was it like in your household growing up? Have you ever heard anyone use those questions?
I heard some of those terms, Pastor Lawrence, but fortunately, my father, he was more of a balanced man. I could actually talk to him about my feelings. He allowed me to feel. You know who was more, because my mom had me at 16. Okay. And she is a baby boomer. I'm a baby boomer.
Oh, wow.
So her parents, she was raised partially by her grandmother. Then her mother took her, started raising her at 12.
Oh, wow.
So she's got this pain. She's got this trauma. She's got all this sense of rejection to some degree. She marries my dad.
Okay.
My dad come from more of a privileged background. So he brought the balance to my mom. You better toughen it up. Actually, let me help you. Help our audience with something. I was 7 or 8 years old, and I ran up to the store there in Chicago, Illinois, to buy a half a gallon of milk. This is how etched in this experience is in my head, right? And so I go to get the half a gallon of milk, which cost 74 cents at the time.
Wow.
Pastor Lawrence. And I got robbed. And the milk falls on the ground, busts. So I pick up the carton. They take my money. I go home, and Mama, they robbed me. She said, "You better go get my milk and my money."
Oh, wow.
So So she was trying to raise this tough black kid coming out of the civil rights era, coming out of a country that was in chaos, almost presently now.
Right.
Same, almost identical. So she was trying to raise this boy, no fault of her own, but she was 16 when she had me. She's 18, 12, 7, in her early 20s now, and she's raising, and I'm the oldest. So she's raising this black boy. He's got to be tough. You can't show no feelings. So when I came home crying, that was weakness to her.
Wow.
And so being black, being a man, depending on when you were born,
Right.
there was a whole lot of trauma that we look at trauma now.
Right.
But then they thought they were raising a tough black man.
Exactly.
So that kind of stuff. So I heard a little bit of it both. I heard, because my dad would hug me. My dad would love me. My father took us to school every day until we were able to drive. So we had these conversations with my pops. But mom was the one who brought the you better man up. I tell everybody my mom was my first drill sergeant. So
wow.
So anyway, yeah. So that dynamic was interesting inside of my home.
That's good. And so what I've discovered doing a little research, the statistics says that 80% of black men, they have this problem expressing their emotions in relationships. So today we're not here to make excuses. We're here to give the truth.
Absolutely.
On why we have not really learned how to communicate effectively. And so when you think about it, again, you said you had balance in your home. But the truth of the matter is most of us as black men, even if we grew up in the house with dad, most of our dads were great providers.
Absolutely.
They were provisionally
not talkers
there, but they were emotionally absent.
Absolutely.
And so with that being said, we grew up having this notion that you've got to be strong, toughen up, man up. But that caused us to not share and show our emotions. So here we are, 5, 6, 7 years old. We fall off the bike, bust our head to the white meat, and they're telling us don't cry.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
How you telling me don't cry when I'm scarred? I'm hurting.
Yes.
But what that did, that taught us how to suppress our emotions.
Yes.
And so what kind of an impact you think that had on us as it relates to that?
Yeah, because we associate pain to a lack of masculinity.
Right.
So and how that affects us, it's number one, it becomes a generational, it becomes a behavior that now I pass on to my son, and now my son passes on into his relationships, and everyone, we call it, it's almost this trauma that keeps producing from one generation to the next, because now that my wife, my girlfriend, my partner needs an emotionally present individual,
right.
And she doesn't realize my silence is what makes me think, because that's how I was taught.
Right.
I can't tell you about my feelings, because if I tell you about my feelings, watch this, my mama perceived it as weakness, or my dad perceived it as weakness. So now I'm fearful of sharing my emotions.
Exactly.
Because I've been taught, now you got to provide for your wife, and you got to make sure she knows you're the man.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I share my feelings with her, I'm fearful that she's going to perceive me as weak.
Right, exactly.
So there's this association with pain and expressing it to weakness.
And that's one of the things that we have to get a grip on in our community.
God, we got to.
Because what we're doing is we're continuously passing on this whole narrative of being strong. So watch this. So you have, I especially at funerals, right?
Right.
At funerals, you got
right.
grown men with sunglasses on, here they have their mom or their dad or their child that passed. They're sitting there trying to hold back their emotions. And that should show us how impactful our upbringing has been on us.
Oh my Lord!
It's been
even when we're hurting, we're crying.
Even when we're hurting, we're afraid to express our emotions, because in our psyche we have been taught that, hey man, don't show your emotions. That's weakness, and that has really hurt us in relationships. It's hurt us just in various facets of life.
Because vulnerability. Because
Exactly.
it's vulnerability.
Exactly.
We lack that vulnerability. And it's funny that those of us who start to process some of this what we're talking about and really confront our trauma. I mean, like confront our pain,
exactly.
our past. We find that vulnerability, there's a freedom that comes with vulnerability. And what happens, just like your trauma affects everyone, I call it collateral damage, right?
For sure.
Your vulnerability affects everyone around you. You really give people the permission to express their pain when you express your pain.
Exactly.
When a man can, and he doesn't fear that he's losing his masculinity.
Exactly.
I'm not less than a man. Well, what we talked about that in kind of like the pre-show, that not only do we as men have to start really having a conversation about vulnerability, pain, trauma, expression, we really then have to teach the women in our lives and around us and those that we influence, give the man the permission and don't associate his vulnerability to weakness, because you do know that's a major accomplishment when we start saying, I'm hurting. I feel like giving up. I'm depressed.
Exactly.
Why he walk around silent is that his environment is saying to him, we need a man to show up. We need a man to come.
Exactly.
And if you don't do that, he's fearful that she's going to look for another man.
Right. Exactly.
She's going to look at another man because of this whole false narrative of masculinity in our culture.
And the thing about it is what you're just saying, as it relates to a man, when he does open up, if he gets shut down,
oh God, that's a whole nother subject.
It can really shut him down for a lifetime.
For a lifetime.
Because he already was at a point where he says, okay, I might be okay speaking what I feel now. And then the moment he starts to say what he feels, if he gets shut down, it can be very damaging to him in that relationship.
Yeah.
Simply because he felt safe, but now you've taken that safe space away. What do you say to that?
Well, Pastor Lawrence, that's what the cycle is. The cycle is once, okay, let's go to third grade. He's crying in third grade.
Okay.
And the teachers, stop all that crying.
Right.
You know, then he goes home. So particularly if he's in a single parent home, this is the other side of the coin. And mama tired. Mama got a lot going on. Mama got 4 other kids to tend to.
Right.
She's got to go to work. Don't ask. She's going to college trying to get her degree. She ain't got time to pamper your feelings.
Right.
She don't mean no harm, but she telling you, listen, you drop those tears because the world expects you to be a man.
Right.
Boom. So that goes on and on and on. So then don't meet a woman who, as soon as I'll never forget this one experience. I'm letting it go. Because I'm thinking I'm in this safe space. And I hear about it the next day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Child, I can't believe you wouldn't believe he was crying. And so before you know it.
Yeah,
all of a sudden now, that trains you to take a certain mindset in every relationship you have, particularly with an adult woman.
Absolutely.
And because she's been taught what a man is.
Right.
And so therefore, she sees a sign of a vulnerable man. There is an association with vulnerability that he's not all man.
Right. Exactly.
And so what happens, other women suffer because that one woman shuts you down.
Shut him down.
And now he's saying, I'm never going to take a risk of sharing my feelings again.
Right.
Until he finds a woman that really gives him the permission to be a man who has feelings.
That's good. And the thing about it, that's what I was saying, it is so critical for a woman to understand.
Oh, God, yes.
That when you shut a man down who has gotten comfortable enough to share his thoughts, share his feelings, it can be devastating for life. So other women have to take the brunt of that.
Absolutely.
Because of that one situation.
Because of that one situation.
And it's no different than a woman being with a man and he cheats. Now, she probably, in her mind, thinks that every man is going to do the same thing. A man has to take the brunt of her being, in that situation. Just like when we do what we do, as it relates to what I was just saying, when a man gets a chance to be safe enough to speak and he gets shut down, now other women, for the most part.
And when you find the right one, because if she's listening right now, she's gonna say, "Oh my God, they're giving me a strategy on how to help heal this man that has been
Absolutely.
traumatized."
Absolutely.
Because the other thing that a man may not talk about is who shut him down.
Right, exactly.
He may not even tell you that one experience psychologically affected him, emotionally affected him to the degree where he may say, "I don't even want to tell her because she has to be the woman who has been assigned to heal you, or to assist in your healing.
Yeah.
She has to be given the permission. She has to be given the permission or the sense of assignment. She has to feel like, okay, I've got to be able to listen to this man and be so secure
Exactly.
that if he talks about a previous damaging relationship, she don't think that that's a slight against her.
Right.
See, any type of healer have to be secure.
Oh, no question.
Just like
Absolutely.
you just use the example of a man or woman cheating. So now that I'm not the one that's going to cheat on you, I've got to help heal your security.
Exactly.
So you can learn to trust men again.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing. Yeah.
And that's so critical because, again, what we have to realize, and again, the majority of our viewers are women. And so this conversation to me is something that's very critical because women still in their 40s and 50s still don't understand, why doesn't he talk? Why doesn't he open up? He probably has had a number of situations where either he didn't feel safe or if he felt safe, it was brought back up. And so now I'm saying to women, you have to be able to give a man time to think about and to really get to the place of saying, can I be vulnerable again? So you can't rush a man. I'm talking to the women now. You can't rush a man to communicate because he's still dealing with the trauma of being shut down before.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just stuck a pin in something that I thought, well, this is good because not just as a man has been taught through his environment, through his culture, through his home, his family, his parents, his grandparents, perhaps, particularly if there was a close connection, through some experiences, through relationships. A lot of our women have been taught that behavior of, you better roughen it up and toughen it up.
For sure.
So just as we're learning to be vulnerable, our audience of women, those who will hear this podcast, have to learn another behavior.
Exactly.
Just as we're learning a different behavior. Because now our world is opening up to the feelings of men.
Right.
And that don't mean that they're less than a man.
Right.
Or that I'm trying not to be controversial here, that a man who's got feelings, that don't mean he is not a man.
Right.
So I am saying, so don't associate that with that. And he has to feel like, with no judgment.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
With no judgment, that if he was violated, because we hadn't even associated the lack of feelings that young men have often is because they may have been violated as little boys.
Right.
They may have been raped by a man. They may have been violated by another woman. They may have been violated by a family member.
For sure.
That traumatized them to the degree that I just don't want to share my feelings. I'm afraid and to be vulnerable.
Right.
I'm afraid to trust. And women inherit that behavior.
Right. And we can add to that list that you just ran down, even boys who have been shut down trying to express what they are thinking or feeling to their parents.
Whoa.
That's another area that's so critical. So if you got a kid 7, 8, 9 years old trying to share what happened to him in school or sharing what happened to him as a preteen or whatever, and he gets shut down,
yes, sir,
that still continues that cycle of a boy becoming a man and not being able to express himself.
Yeah.
It's so critical.
It's very critical. Pastor Lawrence, this is such a untapped subject, and that we've got to continue to just unearth, because so many men out there, and what's happening, a person doesn't just divorce. So you marry a man who's traumatized. So it has nothing to do with love. He can love the woman, but don't feel safe with her.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Right.
There's a whole lot of that.
So we talked about cheating. A man will become silent with you and find a safe space with someone that he feels emotionally safe with. A lot of times women think a man's cheating only because of sex.
Right. It's a whole lot more.
It's a whole lot more deeper than just the sex. The sex is the residual, that you get.
Right.
Because if he emotionally feels safe,
he's gonna be there.
That's where home is for him.
He's gonna be there.
That's where home is. And so that ability to give him the space to be a person, to be vulnerable, listen to him talk with no judgment.
Right.
That's what's gonna keep him home.
And that is so true, because women always equate cheating with sex.
What's sex? What's that?
And
what she had to offer that I didn't have.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, as we talk about this whole piece about communicating with men and things of that nature, I want you to think about this. There have been so many women who have lost relationships because they didn't know how to create a safe space for men. And at the same time, there have been a lot of men who have lost great relationships with women because they didn't know how to express what they were feeling.
Absolutely. He was silent.
Yeah. And so women, you play talk to y'all, come a little closer. You play just as much a major role in the demise of a relationship as you do in the success of one. Because the truth of the matter is, if you don't know how to create a safe space for a man, he may find someone else that he feels safe with and still be with you.
And still be with you. And that's the thing, because if you only see a man from a provisional perspective, right? So as long as he's providing, because the old school is, honey, he coming, he bringing the money home, he's providing, he's a good man. So there was no requirement to talk, right? So as long as he brought the money home, as long as he took care of all of the bills, but men, that's the revolution that's taking place. Men are saying, now I want to be able to talk. I want to be able to share, because we've not associated emotions to men. We've only associated emotions to women.
Exactly.
And so and let's not add who the man is to communicating. If you're dealing with a high-leveled pastor, CEO, vice president, banker, principal, I'm talking about high-level stress jobs. Right? Those type of personality men require a certain environment when they come home.
When they come home, absolutely.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of young ladies out there. I want to be married to a certain kind of man,
and don't realize what comes with it.
What comes with that is a whole nother level of understanding how to interact with that man.
And then the thing about it is, the question becomes: are they capable of dealing with what comes with that?
What comes with that? Almost qualified.
Exactly.
You got to have some qualifications.
One of the things that I know for me, and Tracy says this all the time, my love language is communication. I'm a talker. I love talking.
No, you're not. You're not a talker.
So,
and all your friends have to know that too, right?
And so the thing about it is,
I'm not gonna let you have that by yourself.
Go ahead.
We're both are talkers.
Absolutely. And that's why in our spaces, and when I say our spaces, people don't realize that when you're thinkers, right, in relationships,
oh my God,
you're gonna have to have someone who can level up. And it's not that you're better than anybody, it's just that we communicate from a different level.
Oh my God,
we
man.
communicate
That's so powerful. Level up emotionally,
Oh yeah.
She gonna have to increase her communication skills,
No question.
her listening skills,
Absolutely.
and her ability to stimulate you.
Absolutely.
Intellectually, that's required. And that's when you're talking about marrying a certain kind of guy, a certain kind of man, a whole lot come with it. See, because they think we're just sexual beings.
Right. Right.
You know, and
Right.
so a woman has to be trained, like we have to be trained, that if I'm going to hook up with a boss baby, my baby, she's a boss, you require a certain level of stimulation too,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So if you're married
Absolutely.
to a woman who's the boss, she's the baby at home, she's the boss at work, she know how to make it happen. She requires a certain amount of intellectual, emotional stimulation.
Exactly.
Just as that man does. He's not just, you just can't offer him sex and he be happy.
Exactly. Exactly.
No, so-
And that's one of the things that I was telling.
This is so powerful.
Yeah, I was telling somebody this the other day. I said, if I don't have anybody who can stimulate me intellectually, I'm probably not gonna be that
You're not
interested
gonna be
in
a
sex.
happy guy.
Yeah, I ain't gonna be interested in the sex that much. I got to be able to have some conversation with you after the bedroom.
No. You got to say that one more time. You got to say that one more time. You got to say that one more
Because
time.
it's
Because I don't know if many
true.
women understand that.
They
say that
don't.
one more time, please,
Yeah,
sir.
and that's what I'm saying. Again, I have to have someone who can stimulate me intellectually. Because if I'm not stimulated intellectually, I'm not going to be as excited sexually.
Whoa.
So, well, let's go from another perspective with women. Women want to have foreplay. And foreplay for women is not necessarily physical.
Physical. Absolutely. It's emotional.
And so
it's
when
everything.
women are
Yes.
stimulated in foreplay outside of sexual,
Right.
they're going to enjoy the encounter.
They encounter better.
It's the same way for me. If I'm
Absolutely.
stimulated intellectually, I'm good.
See, one of the things is Pastor Lauren. This is so powerful because if a woman associates masculinity to being aggressive, overly assertive, overly aggressive, too much assertiveness in his personality, she won't even think he requires an apology.
Exactly. Oh yeah, for sure.
That if you wound him with your mouth, with your words, if you wound him with the way you said something, and then have an attempt for a sex, that shuts a man down.
Absolutely.
Sexually.
Exactly.
You can be the prettiest woman in the community. If you don't know how to reach your man, particularly a man who's learning to be vulnerable,
Right.
but he's highly intellectual, he's highly emotional, and you say the wrong thing to him, he's no longer interested in how you can be pretty, you can be beautiful,
Right.
but if you don't know how to reach that man and stimulate him intellectually, emotionally, and particularly if that's what he needs,
Right.
he won't be interested in you sexually.
Exactly. And that is so critical. And I know our time is probably winding up with this episode, but we've got to actually come back and do a part 2.
Let's do it.
But listen, we are definitely appreciative of all of you who are tuning in to this broadcast today, this podcast, to have the man, the myth, and the legend in the room. Bishop Victor Powell.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. Let the people know how they can contact you and let them know what product you may have or whatever the case
Oh my
may
God,
be.
you could definitely go to Amazon.com and see our latest bestseller that's on Amazon. It is a bestseller on Kindle and Amazon. Our book talking about the pain and the hurt of pastors. Go out there and get that. And you can also go to our website, VLP Think Big. That's our training website. And you can go to rhamawordcathedral.org and you can pull up our app, our website, and get any information about us. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Victor L. Powell. God, thank you so much for having me.
Man, I
brother.
appreciate you being on.
Thank
and
you
today,
so
again,
much.
we are appreciative of everyone who's tuned in. We thank y'all so much. Listen, make sure you follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all the social media platforms. Follow us, The Red Flag Coach, and we appreciate you. Talk to you next week.